welcome back to another episode of the Health Hun Podcast. I'm joined by the lovely Laura O'Rourke. Say hello, Laura.
Hi.
Hi. Me and Laura go way back. We met through mutual friends. God, it must be like 6 or 7 years ago now or something. Laura is from an area close to me in Dublin, and yeah, we both have similar interests now, and we're kind of in the mental health field. And it's funny how both their careers have progressed. Like we didn't think that we'd both be where we are today. We just knew each other from like nights out and meeting up and whatever, and now Laura is where she is today. So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
Yes, of course. So I am an NLP coach and hypnotherapist, and I am also a sports therapist. And more recently, I have set up a new social enterprise for mental health called The Waiting Room. So that's a lot, a lot going on. But yeah, it's me.
Love it. How did you start getting into NLP and hypnotherapy?
So I think obviously from a young age, I was quite interested in mental health from kind of personal experiences and things like that. So mindset was always quite an interesting topic for me. And I was on YouTube, would have been 3 years ago, and came across NLP. What is that? What the hell is this? Did a bit of research on that. And I think from doing therapy for so many years, I had kind of noticed that therapy was great for me to like process my past and things that would have happened previously. But I noticed that in my current life and in different situations, things were still popping up that were related. And I was like, hang on a minute, there's belief here now that I have not gotten rid of. And why do I still think like that when I've dealt with probably this part of my life? And then I think it came down to realizing that it wasn't that one situation. It was core beliefs that I had in myself. And NLP obviously showed me that those can all be removed, and you can reprogram your subconscious mind and the power that our minds actually hold. So obviously looked at a lot of different videos, kind of researched it a bit more, and I was like, this is amazing. I am going to train in this, and that's what I did.
Amazing. So when you did the NLP, and did you find that the hypnotherapy was like a continuation from that? Was that just something you kind of did again as a personal interest?
So it was always part of the NLP course in general. I was like, oh, okay, like so. I had heard obviously you hear all these things about hypnotherapy, like, oh, you see it on stage and you get people to just like, I don't know, act like a monkey or do something ridiculous. There has to be like, more to that. And I was kind of researching online and things like that, and how hypnotherapy helped, people who are quite sick, stop hemorrhaging and things like that. And I was like, that is, but again, it's just a continuation of in-depth reprogramming of your subconscious mind. So it's just a different way to do that and gets that bit deeper. But obviously I had never gotten hypnotherapy done before. And obviously when I was on my course, there's a full day of that, which is quite intense. And how you can ingrain new beliefs through hypnotherapy is absolutely amazing. And I'd always be someone to try. I'm never one to say that doesn't work. I'm always like, let's try it, let's do it. And it was absolutely amazing. That along with obviously the different techniques that you do learn in terms of NLP and different kind of techniques in general. It was incredible. Like, so it's not really talked about a lot, I feel. You either know about it or you don't. But it was an amazing experience, and it's absolutely brilliant. The effects that it has is just insane.
And what would like a usual session with hypnotherapy look like with a client? Like, would you run through kind of what they want to dig into before the session, or is it really like guided based on when they tap into their subconscious, what kind of comes up in the session?
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of speaking to someone, you can it's asking the right questions and what they currently believe about themselves. Of course, you're going to get somebody who's coming to you for confidence. Maybe they have an issue in that, or they play sports and they'd like to improve their confidence in that level. Hypnotherapy is an option to do that. You can dig into certain beliefs different ways, but a lot of the time they kind of know what the belief is and what they want to change about that. And when you get them into, you know, a really relaxed state, you're speaking directly to the subconscious mind. So, you know, different scripts that you can say. And sometimes I tell them to, you know, take this script, record it in your voice, because it's you, and play it back at night. Because obviously that's when your subconscious mind is, I suppose, most alert, and will take in the new beliefs. But a lot of the time, I've had a few people that are like, oh, I don't really know about this. We're a little bit resistant to it, trying to get them into the relaxed state. I had to do it a few times, you know, which is quite normal. Your conscious mind's like, what is this? But the effect that it has later on in certain, you know, situations that they want that confidence in, is amazing. But usually they know exactly what they want it for. And if they don't, sometimes by talking to them and having that conversation, you figure out the beliefs that they currently have and the new ones that they want to adopt pretty quickly.
Yeah, I love that so much. I did a course with the Manifestation Babe. She has like her Manifestation Babe Academy, like full course, and it goes through all different things from like rapid resolution therapy to NLP to hypnotherapy and stuff like that. And she talks about like subliminals. I know so many people have talked about subliminals for like manifestation, and it's like having them. So for anyone else that doesn't know what subliminals are, they're like really, really low. Basically, you can record your own messages, or you can listen to someone else's recording of like affirmations and new beliefs and stuff, but it's so quiet you can't hear it, so you'll just hear music. And whether it's like a particular wavelength of music, whether it's like, I don't know, pianos, or like listening to a waterfall or whatever, you're actually just listening to soothing music, so you're actually in that relaxed state for your subconscious to allow those new beliefs and thoughts in as well. Some people swear by them, I've seen it. And I suppose that would be the difference between affirmations, really, wouldn't it? And kind of like affirmations, a lot of people use them and they're able to kind of tap into them and believe them, and you know, through repetition you can kind of convince yourself eventually, like if you're practicing gratitude every day and stuff like that. But I feel like sometimes for people that can be harder to receive or to allow in, or even to just, you know, even be neutral in any way about them, never mind believing something positive about themselves. So would hypnotherapy be something that you'd recommend for someone that finds it difficult to do that?
I think affirmations are fine. Like I would use affirmations now. It's not, obviously you can repeat things to yourself during the day when you're awake and you're conscious, and you can say, you know, I don't know, I am loved, I am chosen, I am worthy. You can repeat those things kind of robotically or throughout the day, or when you feel a little bit anxious. But what I found really helpful as well is doing affirmations at nighttime on a loop, when I'm going to sleep, depending on whatever it is, the beliefs that I have that I sometimes need work on, I'll go to sleep with them playing. So you're asleep, but your subconscious mind is always awake anyway. And you go into that state where your mind can fully absorb them. You're not going to say, if I sat here now and I said, I'm loved, I'm worthy, I'm chosen, I could be like, yeah, but Laura, what about that? What about that time? And then your conscious mind starts to say, hang on a sec, are you though? You know, and you have that wavering nearly. Whereas when you do it at nighttime, you're asleep. So your conscious mind's awake, absorbing it. And if you do that enough, you do adopt new beliefs as well. So I like them more so than subliminals. I know the whole point of subliminals is that you can barely hear it, but I sometimes I'm like, that's annoying that I can't hear it. I want to hear the words that are going in. So I suppose when it comes to hypnotherapy, it's the same thing. You're just, instead of you just going to sleep in that state and having the affirmations on, I'm just guiding you into that state, and I'm repeating those affirmations in a script while you're in that state, the same state when you're asleep. So they're kind of similar in that way. It's just kind of when you're listening to the affirmations, I find at night, you wake up the next day, and after a few weeks, the difference that you feel with that is amazing. But I think they kind of they're quite similar in a lot of ways. Yeah.
That's so cool. And was there like any like particular wavelength of music, like with the like alpha, beta, theta, does all that apply to hypnotherapy?
Yeah. Well, not to hypnotherapy, obviously, when you listen to any of them, but your subconscious mind will automatically go into that state anyway when you're falling asleep. But you know, like I think you can like Google certain ones that will have them in like beta, theta, all those anyway. But it doesn't really matter, because your subconscious mind hears everything anyway all of the time. So you could be blaring it out of a speaker, you know, before night out, and it would still go into your subconscious, even, you know what I mean, even if your conscious mind isn't really paying attention to it. So like sometimes I'll listen to different affirmations when I'm working and I'm not actively paying attention to them, but my subconscious is, so, yeah.
And I think that's so important. It's like what you're consuming. So like I can feel it in myself if I'm not absorbing like positive content sometimes, that I'm like, I feel like this urge to listen to something that just gives me a little bit of a refresher, just something that's a little bit of a reminder of like, I don't know, spiritual principles or something to do with work and business and being a little bit more disciplined or dedicated or whatever. And there's all these kind of motivational videos that you can see online, and they really do help people out of like I remember when I was like years ago, before I knew any of the stuff that I know now, it was always those kind of videos that helped me kept going, and it was just kind of like motivation, and obviously they can be a little bit toxic in their own ways, but I do think that we do focus a lot on kind of really looking at like doing a content audit, seeing what's kind of toxic and seeing what you're consuming that doesn't support you. Maybe your feed is full of people with shredded abs or whatever, and it's like, okay, make sure that that's not something you're consuming all the time, so you're reinforcing you're not worthy, you're not good enough, you're not good looking, you're not whatever, insert X belief here. But it's also important to have positive people that you follow and positive messages that are reinforced at the same time. So yeah, I love that. I love that you mentioned about like you're still listening to those affirmations as well. You mentioned about your own journey with mental health. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So when I was quite young, I lost a parent to mental health. So obviously growing up, that was quite difficult in terms of how to navigate that. And when you're young, you don't really understand mental health really, to a certain extent. So growing up, I was done a lot of therapy, and obviously had a lot of kind of work to do, I suppose, trying to accept that and kind of manage my emotions around that. So I had that kind of part of my life. And then my other parents wasn't around, didn't have a great relationship with them. So there was kind of another side of it. So it was like dealing with grief in like two separate ways. So I was grieving somebody who had died, and then was grieving somebody that just wasn't in my life, who was a parent as well. So that growing up was trying to navigate that was obviously at the time was challenging, and it was rewarding in a lot of ways in terms of what I learned from quite young and kind of growing up. So from there, I kind of just always kind of kept up that, and I probably had to, Orla, to a certain extent, keep on top of my mindset or keep on top of my mental health as well. But then I got to a point where I was really interested in it and how different people think like that I suppose NLP came into that, or, what way is mental health looked at, or why are people not talking about this? And this person thinks like that. I just got really into all of that. So that's kind of like the building blocks to what's led me here, I suppose. So it was kind of a pull of different things, I think. But it's more personal experience than anything else, and kind of what I've learned in that time, what I've read, watched, studied in that time, and then I suppose how I've navigated certain things in my, I suppose, own personal journey as well. So it's kind of all just built into one learning process. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Was there any like standout tools or books or people that you listened to along that journey?
I love Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah.
I love Eckhart Tolle. Wayne Dyer. Anything, I know they're more, I suppose, mindset related. I suppose this is my thing, or it's my thing. The mental health stuff I didn't read first, or I didn't go down that avenue first. It was more my mindset and what I believed and what way I was thinking more than anything else. And then I know I mentioned at the start that different beliefs that I had were popping up in situations now. A lot of the time I think that we go to therapy, and this happened to me. We go to therapy. I've been in therapy, like I could probably afford a house for the amount of therapy that I've had in the last like 10 years. Would still pay it over a house, but anyway, that's the point. And it was amazing, and the growth that I had from it was absolutely amazing. But what I think is a big thing is that you come out of therapy and you've dealt with a lot of what has happened, and that is amazing. And especially when it comes to something like mental health, it's so important to do that. I think when I came out of that, it took about 6 or 7 months before I realized I still had so many limiting beliefs. I still got that anxiety over certain things that were to do with my past, not about the situation itself, or the situations that I had previously kind of processed and accepted, but similar situations were popping up, and I was having the same internal feelings. I was having the same kind of irrational thoughts when it came to it, and I realized that the limiting beliefs were still there. So all this therapy was great. Let's get rid of the old stuff. But how about navigating now and your internal state currently and in future situations? So a lot of the stuff that I did was all mindset and belief. I built that up quite a lot. And then I had stopped therapy at that point, because I'd done it for quite a while and I felt okay to stop it. Went into kind of the mindset area of it. And I absolutely loved it, to be fair. Did a lot of reading like that, Eckhart Tolle, Wayne Dyer, all of that, and kind of looked at myself and called myself out on my shit as well, Orla. And then I went back into therapy, and the difference when I really worked on myself and my mindset, before I went back to therapy, made such a difference. It's amazing. So I think there's you can go to therapy and you can come out, and sometimes there is still things that will bring you back into that cycle of what you believe about yourself and the limiting beliefs that you have, and you can go back again to therapy. You kind of deal with it, but there's no follow-up, I suppose, in terms of that, unless you like that you're coaching, you're doing coaching, or you're putting that work in. Those limiting beliefs can kind of pop up. So I think for me it was all the mindset stuff first, and I'm so glad that I learned to do it that way, rather than just doing therapy to kind of deal with my past and then coming out not doing anything and then just having the same internal feelings in different situations for the rest of my life. That's not what I wanted.
Yeah, that's amazing. It really is about that timeline. And just for anyone listening, it's like your healing journey doesn't, like what Laura said, she did the mindset first. Someone could do the therapy first or counseling first, whatever. There's no right or wrong, but it is really to understand that kind of natural progression and that timeline. You could be doing all the mindset work, and if you just think you're going to continue to have these limiting beliefs change or whatever, but you have these deeper issues from your past that you're absolutely suppressing and you've locked away in this box that you're never going to shine a light on, it's not going to go anywhere. It's still going to be there at the root for you. It's still going to be embedded in your subconscious. It's still going to be with your inner child and so on. And likewise, if you're like what you mentioned, if you do go to therapy and you kind of don't have that path forward, you could be stuck in your trauma, you could be stuck in those old patterns and what happened to you, and this is your story and this is your final destination. And it's like, no, you get to rewrite your story, you get to create a new identity, you get to be a whole new person. And it's really like, yeah, like I said, there's no right or wrong with that timeline, but it's really to make sure that you're not kind of thinking you tick a box once. Like I was talking to a lad the other day, and he was talking about how he's looking at all these like supplements, and he was asking me all these questions about like, is this right or wrong, or what do you think about this supplement? And I could just tell typically the people who aren't really doing the deeper work will be looking at the kind of surface level fine details, like what's the best supplement to take, what's the best exercise to take, what book should I read, and it continues and continues and continues. And it's like, you can do that for as long as you want, but if you're not facing what's actually going in within your nervous system, within your subconscious mind, you're not going to be able to move forward, babes, plain and simple. And again, it was interesting that it was still that kind of fear for him to go to therapy, and I was like, really? I was like, oh, this is absolutely still there. And I suppose it kind of brings into your waiting room that you've just started off with the business. Will you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. I actually got the idea mid meditation. So for anyone who doesn't meditate,
love
ever used to meditate, I just say, I'm like, I can't meditate. But I also had a lot of things to work through then, so I can understand. But yeah, because I it was after Christmas. I'd gone to see my brother in London. I'd come back and I was like, there's something mental health in me. Like I just kept saying, there's something there, there's a download coming and I can't get it, and I won't get it because I've worked so much the last few weeks. Was going to start back doing my coaching the week after New Year's, and I was like, nope, something was telling me, and I will always work, I have no problem doing work. So I was like, no, Laura, something's telling me, like, take another week. I was like, right, okay, I'll take another week. So I didn't know what it was. And I was like, will it be something to do with men's mental health? Now, a lot of the people that come to the waiting room, by the way, are men anyway. So it kind of fell into that. But I was
That's
like, there's
amazing.
no men's mental health like solely for men. I think there's one, I think it's for, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head now, it's gone, but for domestic abuse with men. But there's no just one solely. There's the men's sheds and things like that, which are great, but there's not one solely dedicated to men. I was like, maybe something like that. And anyway, I was like, okay, I need to meditate on this. And I went into a meditation, and I got the idea for the waiting room, just kind of had like a download. And I was like sat up for from my meditation, rang, texted Sarah, sent my voice note, and I was like, I need to say this now because I'll forget. And you know yourself, you have meditation or you have a download, sometimes you forget it, you don't write it down or whatever. But yeah, that's kind of how I suppose I came up with the idea. But basically, obviously in Ireland at the minute, it's you know, the UK is a little bit better, but not so much. The wait list for any sort of mental health services in Ireland it's insane. How long you're waiting. I think I read something the other day that in December there was 15,000 on the waiting list, and like 6,000 of them have been waiting for like over a year. Yeah, so so I basically thought there has to be something there that is nearly a stepping stone for either people that are on a waiting list or don't feel ready to take that step into therapy, because I understand that can be quite daunting. You're sitting in a room with somebody that you do not know, and you're expected to talk about all the things that are either currently hurting you, have hurt you, or whatever it is. That can be quite overwhelming for a lot of people. So I came up with the idea for the waiting room, which is basically once a month we get together and listen to a keynote speaker talk about their experiences, what they went through, anything. And it's kind of set in a open forum, so everybody kind of talks between themselves as well, can ask different questions, so it's really brings a sense of community. And I think that's like one thing that you see when it comes to, if you look at mental health charities at the minute in Ireland, or that there's no sense of community. You know, we're always, you're not alone with your mental health. Okay, that's great, like thank you for that, but I still feel like I am, and show me otherwise. You know, I am someone that's like, show me where I can see that. I think when certain charities run certain campaigns throughout the year and things like that, they might have some sort of like workshop or community events, you know, as a once-off for that particular campaign. And a lot of the time that's like niche down, which again, that's absolutely fine. But there's no consistency in terms of any sort of community aspect when it comes to mental health in Ireland at the minute, and there isn't. And I think like one thing that I always say is like community is like our biggest survival tool that we have, you know. And I think once I found that sense of community as well, and when I realized that there was other people in or had been in similar situations or thought the same as me at one point in their life, everything was so much lighter. And even the people that come, sometimes they might not feel comfortable to speak up or to talk, but they're hearing different stories, so they're still getting the impact from it as well. So we're also going to bring in as well community events that we'll all do together, whether that'll be like, you know, a beach meditation, sunrise swim, whatever it is. So we'll have monthly kind of community events as well in between the talks, because I think, you know, talks and things like that are great. I kind of compare it to the talks are brilliant, but that's nearly like going to therapy once and then never going again. You know, it's just once a month, and it's kind of the follow up of that, and having that support behind you or the like-minded people around you that nearly, you know, push you without actually pushing you, to really look after yourself and to really get rid of that stigma that obviously is in Ireland at the minute when it comes to mental health, you know. So I think for us, it's creating, you know, like a connected, open-minded and open-hearted community that normalize the conversation around mental health, because that's just what's needed in Ireland. It's not talked about enough at all.
I love that. Well done. It's such an amazing idea, and I fucking love that came from meditation. Is it just solely for men then, or is it for men and women?
No, not at all. Obviously in general, like we've had so many men wanting to speak at the events, which is absolutely amazing, because if you look at different reports and stuff like that, me and a man could say the exact same thing on in a room full of people, but the men in that audience are more likely to listen to the man saying it and really absorb what the man is saying it more than me. So they listen to other men as well, and it has more of an impact, which in turn will probably create more internal change from a man listening to a man. And I think, the fact that a man is getting up and speaking about his past experiences in, a country which a lot of the time people are saying, what are you doing? Is absolutely amazing itself, So no, it's absolutely not just for men at all. But it's great to see when men do come to these sort of events, because I think they have a pretty hard time when it comes to mental health in Ireland as well. Like like told to man up, and I was thinking about the other week where I was like, I vent all the time when I need to vent to somebody. Like there's always somebody there that I can just be like, no, that's really annoying me, and it might be something so minor, but I have the opportunity to do it. Or if I'm not feeling that great, I can do that if I need to. And there's just so many, especially when it comes to men, not all men, but that they don't feel that they have that. And I cannot imagine what that is like. I can't put myself in that position to even imagine that. I think it's so important. There's societal pressures just from being a man that they can't feel certain things, they can't express their feelings, they can't, it's like man up. No, like they're still a human. People forget that, I think it's getting better. In terms of our generation and things like that. I don't think it's as bad as it was in previous generations, for sure. But yeah, it's still definitely something that needs work.
I know. I really do feel sorry for men. I've been looking so much at like the masculine and kind of just observing what's going on in the world with like toxic masculinity, being a passive man, expectations on a man to be the breadwinner, like dating, how they show up. And there's like all these kind of different chats about how they'll be like the tall guys and they'll be the ambitious ones and whatever, and they've got the pick of the crop with girls, and then they'll fuck over quite a lot of girls, and girls will have this stereotype that men are trash. And then there'll be these nice guys and they may be a little bit shorter, maybe not as ambitious, whatever. Based on society, they're not the best, quote unquote. Okay, obviously that's a load of bullshit, but then women will come along and these could be these lovely nice guys, as we call them, and they're just painted with the same brush. So like that's only one piece of the puzzle. Obviously there's so many other aspects. And I remember I was even chatting to a lad, was on a date, and then I was chatting to him and I was like, do you not talk, we're talking about how like men will go, I don't know, he had a group of friends that basically they just go on holidays and cheating the girlfriends. I was like, sorry, what? And it was such like a normal conversation for him, and I was like, what do you mean it just happens? Do you not know like details? Do you not talk to them about why they do it? No, nothing. No, we just don't talk about it. It's just a thing that happens, blah blah blah. So the conversation went further. Obviously I was like, do you talk about anything? Do you talk about da? No, nothing. I'm just like what's wrong with you men? Like what on earth is it? And the feminine can be such a safe space for the man because they feel that they can't open up to the man as well. So that's so fucking impactful that you have a man in front of a man being like, here I am, here's my vulnerability, I'm dropping my walls, I have these issues too. And there's so much about in the fitness industry and stuff like that online, you'll see with body dysmorphia, it's fucking rampant, but nobody will talk about it, nobody will open up and share because of this association with shame and stereotyping and so on. It's absolutely awful. What would you say the most common, or I suppose maybe do they even talk about what the most common struggles would be for men at the minute?
Not really. In general, like if you look at suicide rates, or they're so common in people age 45 and over, which I thought was crazy. Crazy, but then I suppose if you look at that age range, you see it, they've probably been the breadwinner of a family, they've had all of that pressure as well. And I think just reminded me there when you mentioned about the feminine being a safe space, I think it's really important as well. I think a lot of the time we can say, oh lads, like you can talk, that's all well and good, like all well and good to say that to somebody, okay, but I think as well, as women, we need to kind of either help them with that. And when I say help them with that, allow ourselves to be there as well. It's not all on the men, is what I'm saying as well. You know, we can either, you know, like that, say men are this, men are that, you know, from experiences that maybe people have had with certain men or whatever it is. And I think it's important as well that we, like, what is it, you know, help them across, you know, where they need to go, rather than, I suppose, berating them for things that they don't do, or that they, you know, that they should be doing as well. So I think, especially, like, you know, if someone has a husband, you know, being that safe space, if it's needed, and, you know, it's even becoming that little bit more aware as well. Or I think men have so much pressure on them anyway when it comes to what they think they should be doing as a man, and then feeling like then they should be talking or should be opening up as well. I think it's about having the awareness that you can, as a female, with any man in your life, you can really be a safe space, and you can really be there in a way that isn't shaming them, and having that awareness that you have the ability to do that, and becoming more aware of that for the men in your life is so important. So important, I think. You know, and you're reinforcing that there's nothing to have that shame about. You're a constant reinforcement for that, you know, and that's, again, I suppose the waiting room is that. But I think doing that for different males in our lives is very important, you know. That's something that I've found anyway. That's been quite beneficial.
Yeah, I love that. And that's, again, it's come back to like communication between like the masculine and feminine. And again, we don't need to talk like genders, whatever, but I suppose in this context we are talking about male and female. And how the, like what you said about berating, the language that we can use. If we kind of look at the typical heterosexual relationship, man and woman, just to give this example, okay. With the communication style, a woman might not be heard, she might not feel like she's been respected, been taken seriously, so she will come from this wounded place with the masculine. She will obviously react from her wounded feminine. Again, translate that to kind of mental health talk, triggered nervous system, you're in your fight or flight. So it's very difficult for a man to feel safe to open up to someone who's like shouting at him or reacting at him or whatever. And also, obviously, it's very difficult for you to want to be calm and be regulated when this man is not listening to you, not taking you seriously and whatever. So it's like, this is two opposites trying to come to the same solution, but they're not taking it from the opposite's perspective. They're not treating each other and putting each other in each other's shoes, essentially. And women can talk to their friends, but men can't talk to their friends, and this creates this further like isolation and so on. Yeah, I've been listening to so much lately with men, and like really just observing like the whole Andrew Tate thing and seeing how men have got this kind of like, how are they being sucked in by him? Like, what is it? And although he's toxic in so many other fucking ways, there are aspects that he is empowering men to kind of feel better about themselves and take action and responsibility and have a community again. So it's really interesting. Not that I'm supporting Andrew Tate, and not that we need to talk about him any further, but it's just interesting to kind of understand that missing piece for men at the end of the day. So thank you for doing this for men, because it is absolutely needed. And it's so nice to see, like, come back to Ireland. From the outside looking in, it does look like things are shifting massively. It does look like there's so many different things. Like, if you remember years ago, Laura, like none of us ever spoke about mental health really. Like, and we're all fucking riddled with all sorts.
You know, like, even like a lot of my family like wouldn't, like, you know, like I'm sitting here and I'm just like, I'm setting up this for mental health, and like a lot of my family are like, let's brush everything under the rug, and I'm like, mental health, waving this flag. But or even like years ago when my mom passed away, my uncle, he went to a psychiatrist after that, and he handed him a CD and was like, listen to that and you'll be grand. And that's not even me being dramatic in the words that he used, because I said
What
to
was
him
the
twice,
CD?
it was like some sort of recording track to do with like different situations and what way to like to think about, like, when I asked him, he said, "How shy is," what he said to me, but I did ask a question. But when, and like, it was such a big thing, and this is like where I live as well, even now. Back then, that was what, 22 years ago, 23 years ago. That's not that long ago. And, you know, after he went to psychologist, people in the area were like, this fella's a loony because he went to psychologist.
I know.
Like, it was actually talked about. And I just thought 23, I can't even do that maths. Yeah, 23 years ago is not long ago at all. And could you imagine somebody going in now to a therapist and coming out and everyone in your area is calling you loopy? You'd be like, what is this? You know, but it's definitely gotten better, but it's definitely, there is still a stigma associated with it for sure.
Yeah, sure. Even so, when I was in college, I went to counseling and sought support for mental health, and I think that was like maybe like 8 years ago, and or maybe 7, I don't really know the timelines, but when I did that, I was self-stigmatizing. Like, I was like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing, cannot let anyone see me. The first time I went down to the office, there was someone that I knew there, and I walked straight past it. There's no fucking way I was going in there, and they could know what was going on. So I kind of identify a lot with men and struggling with their mental health, because I was always this strong person, like this hyper independent person that nobody could know anything about me, like smile on the outside, being successful, driven, fit, whatever the fuck, social butterfly, and then on the inside like really, really suffering. So I always relate to men and not being able to open up because of what people are going to think and so on. So I suppose I want to highlight with self-stigmatizing and self-shame and self-abandonment. Of course, you know, there's stigma that still exists, and of course things can still happen. Your family may still judge, people in your area may still judge. Even things have been coming up recently, clients saying their doctors were saying that there's no point in doing that, something to do with our job that doesn't look good and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, like there's absolutely so much, like they say it doesn't really matter in like in the workplace and stuff, but there's absolutely people that managers will still look badly upon that and have their opinions and so on for promotions and career progression and whatever. And you know, they wouldn't say that about someone who had issues with their heart, you know. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if you are kind of listening, you are struggling, it doesn't matter what's going on the outside. At the very least, don't self-abandon. You know, you at the end of the day only have yourself. Show up for yourself, even if it feels very fucking scary, very uncomfortable, very difficult. You only have yourself at the end of the day. And you know, even thinking back to those wait lists and stuff, like 9 months, like some people don't have, or what you said, a year, some people don't have a year. So it's like, just continue doing what you can and attending these events like what Laura's doing in the meantime, and really helping yourself put one step in front of the other and moving forward in the right direction as well. But with your sports therapy, was that something that you would have done like kind of out of the blue, or was that something that you kind of thought was a natural progression into like helping others and mental health and so on?
No, that was actually the second course I ever done. I came out of school and I was like, I'm actually really good at massage. I'm just going to do this. And then I went into sports therapy. So that was way before I kind of delved into kind of mindset. But it's funny how I went into that without that level of awareness, and then how it all kind of correlates and it all kind of ties in with what I'm doing now to some extent as well. It's just funny. Maybe I had a level of awareness that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
Back then, but no, that's something that I more so fell into, to be honest, Orla. But again, it's still helping people, so I think I always loved doing it, you know. But like that again, like the body and mind, they're all connected, you know. So yeah, it's all helping people. You see the benefits from, so I'm kind of seeing it from both sides, I suppose, the physical aspect doing the sports therapy, and then the kind of mental aspect. And you know, sometimes now I'm looking at, like, even with what you were saying there about like your nervous system and things like that is like so important. If somebody is small things, someone comes into the clinic and they're getting a treatment, I can tell by touching them and just the movements that they're making, you're stressed out about something. Do you know what I mean? Like, what is that like? Do you know? And then I'm trying not to go into the waiting room. Sorry to me, because that's not what they're here for to a certain extent. But you see it in the body. It's nearly like I'm looking at what they're feeling sometimes. So but you get a better understanding of people. And you know, the clients that I have, they're absolutely amazing, to be fair. And you can really see how the two of them link together now that I've been on kind of both sides of it, you know.
I love it. How did you find out that you're good at massage?
Not the way that you think. Okay, no, actually. No. No. No, it's funny. My auntie, she used to have a house down where was it? Leitrim, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, used to go down there all the time to her, and she'd be like, Laura, I pay you €10 to rub my shoulders, and I'd be like, oh, go on then. Like, I was so young, I was so much. I was like, yeah. She's like, rub her shoulders. She's like, you're actually really good at that. And I was like, am I? See, growing up, she'd get me to do that for years and years. Like, even to the point I didn't want to tell her, I'll just do it. Like, it's fine. But yeah, I think that was that was probably in the back of my head when I signed up to that course. I was like, I'm going to do this. So, but that was really it. But yeah,
Love it. I love what you said about like how like it's always so funny, like people, if you ever get a massage, or even I remember just getting my nails done one time and she kept being like, relax your hands, and so I was like, drop your shoulders so you can relax now, and I'm like, I am relaxing, and you're so tense that you don't even realize the connection with your body. Like I remember one time that I had like my hands like literally flat out like that, and she was trying to like obviously do whatever. She's like, just relax the tension, release them. I'm like, they're straight. Like, what do you need from me? And she's like, release the muscles. And when the conversation kept going and going and going, she kept being like, come back to relaxing, come back to that. I'm like, oh my fucking God, I didn't even realize how stressed I was until she was showing me my body language and how my body was reacting to it as well. I spoke a little bit about like with Rosalind on the previous podcast about like embodied yoga and like really looking at the somatic side of things. Do you find that like people would come for physical therapy and relaxation kind of for their mental health, or would they just come to do it as something nice for themselves?
Most of the time they come because they need it and they're just sore and they know the benefit that it has. Not so much. What I find is they initially come for pain, the pain that they're in, they're training, they're doing whatever. Obviously sports therapy, it's people who heavy weights, all of that. They initially come for the pain. The pain always gets sorted, but they notice the aftermath, the sleep that they have. Right, you're absolutely fossilized after you get that done. Like, drink the water and you'll be fossilized. But the mental benefits, I have found everyone that I see, if they're coming to me, say for the first time, they come for the pain, but they realize the benefit mentally and in terms of relaxation after. And now my clients, like, they come to me and they're like, this is going to kill me. Like I'm going to be in bits after this, but can't wait, because they know the benefit. So once you've done it kind of once or twice and you come consistently, the benefit that it does have, and the sleep that people get. And that is how the tension goes from their body. Like, people get off the bed sometimes, I'm like, oh my God, they were like, my shoulders were up here. And I was like, yeah, they were. Like, they were, so I think it's like anything, when you start something, you're like, well, I'll go for it. It's like saying the reason that you're going to therapy isn't the reason you really think you're going to therapy. Like, that's not the reason that's going to therapy. The reason that you're like, it's you're coming for the pain, but you're going to get something more than that out of it, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So I think, yes, people definitely see the benefit of it, but like that, it's one of those things that you have to do. I suppose not even consistently. I always tell my clients, like, you have to do it consistently if you're training like that, yourself, Orla. But yeah, even coming months just to decompress as well, they definitely see the benefit. But most of the time, what they're initially coming for is pain in the body.
I think it's something like massage is something that's seen as such like a luxury. I used to always be like, oh my God, massage, who she thinks she is, blah blah blah. And then I started getting them in Bali and stuff, and I was like, this is actually like a self-care thing. This is actually just something that I do for myself, for my body, for my mind, that makes me next level zen. Like, I remember trying to drive home after a massage you gave me before, and I was like, I feel like I'm gonna fall asleep with the fucking wheel.
Yeah, I think people that's like that. Like, people think, and I sound like I'm doing an absolute plug here, and I'm honestly not. But I promise I'm not. But no, I always think that people look at that like self-care. Oh yeah, that's self-care. A massage is really self-care. It's not. It's self-maintenance. There's a complete difference. Like, self-care is probably me going to get my nails done because I don't really need them done. Like, but I think when it comes to like things like therapy, things like massage, people look at those things like they're a luxury, but they're not self-care. That's not something that, you do because obviously it will make you feel good to a certain extent, but it's maintenance. I feel like it's a lot less of a luxury than people probably perceive it as, because of the benefits that it has. and the difference that it makes, like that if you're training Orla, or for your mindset, for your mental health as well. It's definitely a form of healing and self-maintenance more than luxury. But I can understand why people would absolutely think that it is, you know.
Yeah. And even bringing it back to like anything that you're doing for yourself, some people just don't even see value in splashing cash on themselves at all. So, you know, what I always say to clients is like, you know, don't save the fucking good perfume, don't save your nice clothes, don't save whatever like your life is today. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, as grim as that is. You know, let yourself feel good in the moment to moment experience of life. Don't wait for, you know, you'll do once a year, you'll do this kind of nice thing for yourself or on occasions or whatever. Feel fucking good now. And that's really, again, bringing in the feminine energy, is about feeling good, receiving, allowing yourself to be in this vibration as well. And that helps your mental health too. But yeah,
for sure. And I think as well, when you get into that state of feeling good, I think people think, oh no, I can't do that, I don't know, I won't get a massage because I have so much to do, blah blah blah, whatever. They stress themselves out, they don't want to do that. But by getting that, the knock-on effect that has, you get that massage, watch you do everything with so much ease going forward because you feel so good. You'll probably get things done quicker, and you're more in an attracting state and a receiving state then anyway. So I think people look at it as more of a negative, but they don't realize like that everything that will progress from that when they do get it, or they do you know, do the thing. So
and not going to impact with your relationships, with how you show up in your job, etc. So many benefits. But yeah, this has been an amazing conversation. Can you tell people where they can find out a little bit more about yourself and get in contact with your services?
Yes, absolutely. So for myself, my Instagram is Laura O'Rourke, has 2 Ks in that for some reason. And then the waiting room as well, you can find on my page, but that is just the waiting room with full stops in between. So you can find me there.
Gorgeous. Well, thank you so much, Laura. Go give Laura some love. If you found this conversation helpful, as always, pass it on with a friend. And as always, we'll really appreciate that double tap of the stars in the ratings on Spotify and Apple. But yeah, let me know if you enjoyed. Let me know what parts of this conversation resonated with you as well. And we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.